tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down on.
Hello and welcome to another Live on the Ball show here on the Right Way Sports Network YouTube channel. Glad to be here. Of course, every Friday night we are here talking NBA basketball. And of course, as always, I'm your host, Will Auckland, joined by my full slate of co-hosts. We got Jacob, Justin, Nader, Pranav all here. And of course, we have a loaded show of topics to discuss. But before we get right into them, of course, we just want to take a minute to ask to subscribe to the TWSN YouTube channel. We're coming out with live shows and just daily YouTube content on a daily basis. And of course, like the show if you're enjoying the discourse that we're talking about. And be sure to comment as well, your thoughts and even questions. And we will highlight your comments. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just get straight into the show. Our first topic is going to be centered around the Brooklyn Nets. It's not necessarily their on-court play. You know, we know Kevin Durant's been injured, even though he was just named the Eastern Conference All-Star captain, probably not even going to play in the game. But that's besides the point. What we're talking about here is really the James Harden rumors. And there's different sides to this, so I'll just break it down before I ask the question. We dive a little bit deeper into it. But the rumors are that he's unhappy with where the team is at, and specifically, apparently he doesn't like the fact that Kyrie Irving is missing some home games, obviously, because he's not vaccinated. The Nets have also said that they're not going to be trading Harden, so they've basically refused every offer. So we know he's not going to be dealt at this trade deadline. But moving forward, it is interesting because James Harden, he has a player option for next year. So he could, in theory, decide to leave the Nets. Shocking. It would be very shocking, but it's a possibility. So with these rumors in all the context, do we actually think that James Harden would leave the Brooklyn Nets sooner than really we all anticipated? Jacob, I want to start with you on this one.
No, he's not going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. Definitely not this year. He still has 1 year left on his deal. I know he's James Harden, but he still has a lot of money on that year left on his deal. I don't think he's going to leave. I just think he's a little frustrated. I really don't think this is that big of a deal. I feel like we're going to hear about him and the Sixers because Daryl Morey is there until the cows come home. Like that's not going to go away. And I don't know if there's much you can do about it. I just think that the Nets are going through a bit of a rough skid. You know, in my opinion, they need Durant to win a title. I don't think you're going to win a title with just Kyrie, with rental Kyrie and James Harden. You're not. I'm just being honest, especially if Kyrie's on a rental. It's not going to happen. And, I think that this, the only way they're doomed, cause I know we were going to talk about, are they doomed? The only way they're doomed is if Kevin Durant is hurt for longer than expected, and it will screw up their trajectory and whatnot for the playoffs. But I think that this isn't that big of a deal. Who knows? Maybe he'll leave, but I wouldn't be surprised if he signs an extension in the summer. A lot of people were like, "Oh, why didn't he have it sign an extension?" Well, at that point, he still had 2 years left on his contract, so I can't blame him for not wanting to sign an extension. But I think if the playoffs go well, I think he'll sign an extension. And yeah, I just don't think this is that big of a story. I really don't.
I think there's a possibility that he does leave. I think the chances of him staying are higher than the chances of him leaving, but I'll give the case for him leaving right now. Obviously, I think for James Harden, he wanted to be traded from Houston because that window closed for them winning a title. They had great years of basketball, but the window for a title inevitably closed. So that's why he wanted out, and some locker room frustrations, things like that. But the main reason was because they couldn't win a title and the window closed. Now he's in Brooklyn, and sure, last year they didn't win because of injuries. And this year Kevin Durant's out, and that might be one of the things holding them back once again. But I think the Kyrie Irving thing is definitely frustrating towards him because he came here to win a championship. And when your top 15 to 20 player in the NBA, one of your best players on this team, is a rental and only playing away games, when really he could play all these games if he gets vaccinated. I think that's definitely frustrating for James Harden. In actuality, what I think is going to happen next offseason, assuming they don't win a title, is James Harden signs a 1+1 deal, player option on the second year. So essentially, I think he's just going to sign a short-term deal if they don't win the title because, again, he wants to win a title more than anything. We've heard a lot of things about him in the locker room and him doing things outside of basketball, but I think inevitably what he wants is a title, and if he can't get that in Brooklyn with this Kyrie Irving situation and some potential injuries, I think he'll sign a 1+1 and then after that explore his options. But I think he will explore his options this offseason. The obvious team is Philly because of Daryl Morey, and they're going to trade Ben Simmons away rather soon. Probably not this deadline, but definitely during the offseason, I believe. And then that'll clean up some room for them to sign Harden and potentially trading away Tobias Harris as well, which makes up even more room to get Harden. And pairing him with Embiid is something that I think Harden would love because he's never really been with a true star big man. Outside of that, I don't really see many teams realistically as of right now if he were to leave this offseason. But what I think is going to happen, he's just going to sign a 1+1, stay with Brooklyn for 1 to 2 more years. And if they don't win a title in that span, then he's gone.
I think that, as Jacob said, I don't think that this is a huge deal, but I think that it has the chance to continue to spiral into a bigger story if certain expectations, needs, or demands aren't met. I think that James Harden, I think that Kevin Durant, of course, is going to have a huge say in this because as we've seen with this whole Kyrie issue that we've actually been seeing the last 2 years with, trade rumors after the Harden deal was done with Kyrie and, Kyrie's unvaccinated status affecting the team as a whole. I think that Kevin Durant is going to be, the say-all, end-all of this team, and he's going to decide whether or not certain players stay, who stays, and, what this team is going to look like in the future. But just the fact that James Harden is willing to leave after 1 year, and he's not even halfway into his second year, I just find it interesting how the Nets have the potential to not only blow, one deal back when they traded for the, 50-year-old Boston Celtics core, but the fact that they traded a lot now for James Harden to potentially have 0 championships to show for it. I think that, first of all, the Kyrie situation needs to be fixed because Harden cannot do this by himself. As good as the Nets, they have some solid players like Nicholas Claxton and Cam Thomas that are ready to help out the team. James Harden cannot lead this team to, with all due respect, too much, high-end relevancy in the NBA without a second star. It's just the way the league is built now, it's impossible. And, at a certain point, after the Bulls game where the Nets absolutely destroyed us, I'm not a huge fan of the way the Nets play basketball because it is simply unfair. So I think that it should be interesting to see the way that they, conduct things and whether or not they're going to be able to fully operate with 2 players. So I think that it is an interesting storyline that, should spiral into something.
My theory on why Nader doesn't like the way the Nets play basketball is because he watched them destroy his Bulls by 40 that one night.
It is unfair. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan,
it's unfair. Nader, unfair.
Kyrie Irving subs in.
Unfair, Nader. You've got to be friggin' kidding me. Unfair.
The New York Knicks are so unfair too, huh, Jacob?
To my mental state, they are unfair because it's
very unfair.
I want to say just quickly, Nader, if the roles were reversed and the Bulls had that team, then you would not be saying it's unfair.
No, I know it's unfair. I just
be getting his pom-poms out.
You would not be saying it. So.
No, I understand from, just being an empathetic NBA fan, just, because I was where Jacob is probably a couple years ago, back when Cameron Payne was, all due respect, he's a fantastic player now, but 2017, 2018 Cameron Payne was not a fun sight.
What does that have to do with me? What does this have to do with me?
I'm just referring to how I was a fan of a bad team at one time, just like you're a fan.
But wait, didn't the Knicks escape those allegations before you guys?
What are you talking about? Allegations? We're squeaking clean organization.
The poverty allegations.
I mean, they escaped
they're back to where they should be, but last year,
escaped for one playoff run.
You're not sly, pal.
By Trae Young, and then now the Bulls are back and we're staying. The Knicks are down here. The Bulls are up here. Just wanted to throw in some 2 cents about me
You're
and
going
Jacob.
to get destroyed in the second round. So
We'll see about that, big guy.
Yeah, it's not
If
going to be
they
by the
even make
Knicks.
If they even make it to the second round, which
The Washington Wizards aren't even a play-in.
Yeah, or our Wizards.
Okay,
I was going to include our Wizards.
right now, so you could keep your mouth shut for now. But okay.
But
Anyways,
yeah,
so
Knob, do you want to give your take on this?
yeah, I'm gonna go away from the grain. I think he's done after this year in Brooklyn. I really do, because where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, you guys just think about it for a second. Do you think all these journalists, do you think guys like David Aldridge, Chris Haynes, who are reporting this, do you think they're just making stuff up on the spot? Like, this has to be coming from somewhere. Like, this intel has to be coming from circles within the league. And I really do think that he has 1 foot out of the door in Brooklyn. I mean, he's not KD and Kyrie. Like, that relationship is those two. I think Harden has always been, ever since he got there, the odd man out in that relationship. But anyways, I mean, outside of that, I mean, there's reports of him not being happy with his living conditions in Brooklyn. I'm not going to speak too much on that. But as far as the team goes, I mean, Kevin Durant is hurt right now. He didn't have a fast start to the season. Kyrie Irving, his vaccination status warrants him to only play road games. I mean, so much inconsistency surrounds this Brooklyn Nets organization that I wouldn't be surprised if James Harden at this point is just kind of fed up with it all. I mean, it really could be a possibility, given everything, that he's probably the hungriest for a championship right now, because Kevin Durant has won a championship. Kyrie Irving has won a championship. James Harden has not. He really wants that desperately. And if he doesn't feel like everyone else around him is completely bought in, then I could completely see him wanting to leave and possibly go to Philadelphia, where he could team up with his former general manager or president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, a guy who has done everything in terms of wanting to surround James with the best roster possible. I could really see him in that situation and want to team up with Joel Embiid, because if he does, that's probably the best team out east. You have an elite offense, you have an elite defense. I mean, if Philly gets James Harden as a free agent, that's probably the best team in basketball, because then you can move Ben Simmons for additional assets as well. So I would really, if I was Harden, I think he's done. I think he's going to go to Philadelphia this offseason.
May I make a very quick elevator
look at
pitch
right
to
now.
James Harden?
You can
I'd like
remember
to make
No.
I'd like to make
This
an
is a
elevator
pitch
pitch.
to the New York Knicks. He's not listening to you, Jacob.
Shh, listen, James. If you're watching this, I don't think you are, but I don't know. You do a lot of weird crap, so that's beyond me. Anywho,
your pitch is starting off terrible.
Jacob,
All right,
I'm very close to muting you.
oh come on! Just
What do you think he wants to do? Play with Julius Randle?
Can I talk? Are you just gonna interrupt me the whole
You're
friggin'
fine. Give your
James
30-second
Harden.
elevator
Do
speech.
you want to play for a team that people actually know plays in New York? If you do, play in the Garden, play for the Knicks. We will take great care of you. We will love you.
Jacob, one of the reports that he doesn't want to live in New York. He doesn't want to live in New York. So
Well, Brooklyn,
your rebuttal to that?
Manhattan is different.
Your own fans boo
Is
your team
it?
in middle of the game.
You think it's gonna be better in Philly? They're gonna throw stuff at him for crying
They'll
out
love
loud.
James
no.
Harden. I don't
No,
like
no.
Oh,
No,
no.
they
Philly is
love
way
it.
worse.
Ben Simmons.
Because
They're
James
not even
James Harden is not Ben Simmons. He's not shooting 46%
Philly is
on
worse
the
than
free
New
throw
York when
line
it
in
comes to the
playoffs.
ruthlessness of their fans, and don't even think about the
Yeah, but they're gonna appreciate.
Well, the
They're gonna
narrative
appreciate
might change for Philly fans if James Harden went 2 for 15 in a must-win playoff
Oh,
game.
but they'll be so thankful that they have another star next to
But
Joel.
yeah, it won't.
We
So-
won't.
It's not gonna be
The
long,
Knicks
but
won't be
they're-
thankful. Are you out of your mind?
No, they will be thankful, but in the end, James Harden will do nothing but probably a second round exit at his peak with the New York Knicks.
I'll take it.
As a
will
fan,
take
Yeah, it's better than
You-
getting
James
challenged
Harden
by
will not.
You will take it. Will James take it?
James will not
He's
take
been
it.
taking it for 13 years. We can't take it for.
At
And
least
it
he's
is
made
time to get
conference
further.
finals. At least he's made conference finals. You have to guarantee him that. As a
You
will.
have to whiff the conference finals since the 90s.
Mm.
Okay.
You know, guys, I think. I mean, just to put like a little bow on this, I would say to me it just depends on their playoff success this year. Like if the Nets, if they fall short of even making the NBA Finals, then I could see Harden leaving. But to me that's really what it depends to. You know, whether it's because of injury with Kevin Durant or it basically seems like anytime these guys all get together, one of them gets injured or something just happens to make them not have an extended stretch of all three with this big three together. Yeah, I mean, or even getting outplayed. I mean, we're going to talk about the Miami Heat later in the show. The Milwaukee Bucks are still a real threat, and they beat the Nets last year. So to me, like, it all depends on their playoff success. If they get to the finals, I think he's probably safe for another year. If not, then we may be in trouble. And we'll see what the rumors continue to be for the rest of the year. But let's move on to reacting to basically.
Wait. Will, to counter that, I don't think it matters about their playoff success. I think he's out either way. I really do. Really? I think if they win a championship, I think he's going to go to Philly. If they don't win a championship, I think he's going to go to Philly. I'll die on that hill. I will die on that hill. I think he's going to Philly either way because I don't think they're winning a championship, first of all. But if they do, I think he's still going there because of his relationship with Daryl Morey and the fact that moving forward, there's always so much uncertainty with this Nets team. That's always been what's plagued them. They're like, so much is unknown about the future of this Nets team. While the 76ers, at least you have Joel Embiid, who has injury risk. I understand that, but he's in his prime right now, and he's super consistent when he is playing on the court. And then you have Ben Simmons, who's a movable asset. You could get value for him once you trade away James Harden, and you can have an Eastern Conference powerhouse with a guy that's known to build championship level rosters, even if it doesn't seem like they match up with like the super teams of the league, like we saw in Houston. We've seen Daryl Morey build great rosters, and I think his relationship with Daryl Morey is going to end up in Philly. I really do. I'll die on that hill. But we'll see.
If they make the finals, I'd know because it's a better shot. But Justin, did you want to add something?
No, I was just gonna say we should clip that and we'll see.
You can clip it.
I mean, yeah. Well,
James Harden. What day is it? January 28th, 2022. In November 2022, I believe, if I'm not wrong, James Harden will be a Philadelphia 76er.
All right, we're clipping that and putting it on Twitter afterwards, or we're going to revisit that. Hopefully that doesn't age as poorly as my 70-win Utah Jazz take.
I still support that take, Will. I appreciate your
I was muted. I said
in the playoffs.
When that doesn't happen, that we're going to have to destroy the tapes because Pranav's going to have to run away from the takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Run away.
Guys, if we don't have any more to talk about here, I think let's just move on to the All-Star. And we have a couple things to talk about with All-Stars. Number one, we have basically new rules and just a whole new system for this Rising Stars, which we're going to get to in our next topic. But I want to focus on the All-Star starters, which were announced on TNT last night. And just to go over it quickly, you probably know what it already is, but in the East, it's Trae Young, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, who was the captain, probably not going to play just because of injury. Giannis, and then Joel Embiid. And then in the West, Steph Curry, John Morant, LeBron, who is the West captain. Andrew Wiggins is the big storyline here, and Nikola Jokic. And I think besides the one player who we know it is, Andrew Wiggins, I don't think there's really too much to be mad about besides Andrew Wiggins, because I think they pretty much got it right other than that. So let's talk about it. What do Andrew Wiggins? I think we all know that he didn't really deserve it, but why? Let's just explain why he didn't deserve it, and also who would we put in over Andrew Wiggins? And Pranav, if you want to take this one.
So I've kind of come to terms with it, and here's the thing: what I mean by that, Andrew Wiggins, I think it's a boring take, it's the obvious take. He didn't deserve it. We don't have to over stress on that point. We get it. He didn't deserve to start in the All-Star game. But at the same time, someone else helped me realize that this is a game for the fans. That's what the All-Star game is about. It's a game for the fans. And the fans, they might have been trolling, or it might have been the K-pop influence from Twitter. But at the end of the day, they made the decision that they wanted Andrew Wiggins to start in the All-Star game. He was top 3 in forward voting in the Western Conference. And sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. And you have players who respect Andrew Wiggins this year. They voted for him on their player ballots. And if that's the case, the coaches also voted for him. And some of it is he's improved so much, even though he might have not deserved it in reality. But at some point, I kind of just respect the system. I mean, it's a game for the fans. Let them have it. But in regards to your original question, who would I have replace him? It would come down to between three guys for me. It would be between Draymond Green, who's his own teammate and deserves it more, Karl Anthony Towns, but I'm gonna go with Rudy Gobert here. I'm gonna go with Rudy Gobert. His it's every year the same explanation. His defensive impact on the Jazz is absolutely unreal. Like, you can hate on the guy for reasons I don't really understand. You can hate on the guy all you want, but you can't deny the impact he has on the court each and every year for the Utah Jazz, and it's been felt this year. I mean, without him on the court, they have one of the worst defenses in the league, and with him on the court, they have one of the best defenses in the league. And we saw in that 7-game stretch, I believe, when he was out with injury, they struggled mightily without him, especially on the perimeter. There was no interior resistance to somewhat make up for that lack of perimeter resistance, and Rudy Gobert's impact is felt in that way. They just struggle without him on the court, and I think his season, especially, not only his defense, but this has been his best offensive year, in my opinion. I mean, he's actually started to impose his will on the inside, and he's been frustrated at times that his teammates are not getting him the ball inside. He's actually demanding deep paint touches compared to years in the past. And so I think his offensive improvements combined with his obvious defensive impact warrants him to earn that spot for me.
I think this is kind of all right. I like Andrew Wiggins a lot, and I do think I don't know if he should have made it in the all. I don't know if he should have been an all-star in general. Probably a wild card, but he definitely should have been considered. But the fact that he's a starter is kind of I'm not going to say a joke, but it's silly, and it's not because Andrew Wiggins is a bad player, and it's not even really because of the fan vote at all. I'll get to it in a minute, but before I do, I'll just name the guys I would have over him. The same guys Pranav said: Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Draymond Green. I would probably go Gobert for that first spot, and then Draymond or Towns. But I also have a guy like DeAndre Ayton and Jaren Jackson Jr. in there as well. I'd have those 5 guys over him. But the thing that I just kind of want to ramble into for a minute or so is I just think at this point it's kind of just dumb how the NBA still has this position requirement for the All-Star team, and even in the All-NBA team as well. Andrew Wiggins is clearly not an All-Star starter at all. Like, out of all the guys who deserve a spot as an All-Star in the West, Andrew Wiggins is on that list, but he's nowhere near the other guys. He's probably towards the bottom of that list. And guys like Luka Doncic, I would probably have over him if that was a possibility. Guys like Donovan Mitchell, I would have over him if that was a possibility. Devin Booker, the list goes on. Guards who can't be put in his spot because of the position requirements there. I really like Andrew Wiggins, and I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm slandering him, but compared to these All-Stars and the guys competing against for this spot, I just think it's dumb as a whole. Like, the NBA should have taken out position requirements a while ago because he clearly does not deserve it over some of those guys I just named, and even more guys. And even guys in the front court that he made it over, I don't think he deserved it more than. So the position requirement I just think is silly at this point. They should abolish it immediately.
Well, I mean, I agree that Andrew Wiggins shouldn't necessarily be the starter, but, like, I like it. I mean, I know they asked me before, but I just think it's cool that Andrew Wiggins gets to be an all-star starter because one day in 30 years when we're all old heads like Jacob and we're just looking back on our days of, analysis, and we just see, wow, in the 2021-2022 season, Andrew Wiggins just happened to be an all-star starter. So I just think it's cool. Wiggins has improved a lot. He's a great player. He's been really contributing to this Warriors team, unlike last year when he was a part of one of the worst offensive casts in NBA history surrounding Stephen Curry. So, but I mean, if I had to give it to one person, besides Gobert, I'd give it to Draymond Green, who's his teammate, just because of the sheer impact that he has on the Golden State Warriors. You see, they're 4-5 without him, and they're 28-6 with him, and there's a reason for that. Draymond is one of the best do-it-all players in the league. He may not be a great scorer, but he's one of the best playmakers, if not the best playmaker at his position of power forward. He's a stretch 5 that can do it all. One of the best defenders, if not the best defender of our generation. And even in the stats, you can see that opposing teams' field goal percentage goes down. The 3-point percentage goes down. And the amount of steals goes up when he's playing. And, the amount of assists go up when he's playing just because he just moves the ball around and he really does everything. So I think that while Andrew Wiggins getting it, I'm certainly not angry, but I think that Draymond Green deserves it a bit more. And to actually go against Justin's point, I think it's cool. I think that abolishing it would be good. But at the same time, that could lead for like an obsessive Twitter like movement to have like 5 centers start in the NBA All-Star game. So I think that your idea is right. I just think that completely abolishing it wouldn't necessarily be true.
Yeah, but before I let Jacob go, just the thing about that is obviously, I mean, Twitter could definitely do something like that, have like 5 guards in it or 5 centers in it. But I think also something I forgot to mention, because that's a good counter argument, is I don't think the fan vote should be the only thing. Obviously, it's not the only portion of it, but I think it should be used, but to a lesser extent, probably 25% of it. Because although it is a fan game, I mean, you can't just throw in players that don't deserve it. I mean, Andrew Wiggins, again, as a wild card, I would have been fine with it. But as a starter, it really just doesn't make sense. I would have fan vote count as like 25%, and the coaches and all the rest of the votes count as the other 75%. And then you get an actual lineup constructed between a couple guards and forwards to round it out. So I don't think it would just be fans. I think they should lower the fan vote as well as abolish the position requirement.
I'm pretty sure fan vote is like 50% right now. So it should definitely be taken to like 25.
Wait, before Jacob goes real quick, sorry, Jacob. I just wanted to say, if it's, like Pranav said, if it's, a fan's game, then why didn't they let DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine start together? I'm sorry. I get it.
Because this isn't a Bulls.
Why
did they let them start together?
It's impossible. Literally, I was retweeting. There's like literally tens of thousands of tweets every day trying to get LaVine in, and he still came up short.
Not enough, pal.
I don't. And all the players voted him over
rigged.
Trae Young. All of the players voted him over Trae Young. It's just like, it's such a philosophical and just, beautiful ending to have the two guys that were doubted. People saying Zach LaVine isn't a true star. People saying that DeMar DeRozan was the worst signing of the offseason. You put them together and they're the all-star starters? Come on.
Later, they haven't even been together for half a year.
I don't care.
You act like they've been married for like 20 years.
Come back to me when DeFraud has his playoff drop. We'll be
DeFraud is
I have a lot to say.
We own Oklahoma.
I'm sorry, Jacob. Nader. You know who else was doubted? Trae Young. So that doesn't even make sense.
Trae Young has been starting to get all of the followers, I love Trae Young. I'm just showing a bit of bias.
I'm making a decree right now that Jacob should be allowed to talk.
Thank you.
I can't believe I'm saying I have to say this. Unfortunately.
All right, you don't have to be sorry about it, but anyway.
I am. I apologize to our fans for letting me do this.
I think you all are totally wrong because sorry. I was going to try and pretend that I think Andrew Wiggins is the most deserving player out of anyone in the entire All-Star stars. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. No, in all seriousness, because I couldn't pull off the joke, but I think Andrew Wiggins is definitely an all-star. I don't think he's an all-star starter. I don't think it's a crime against humanity that he made the starting lineup. I just don't. I don't think it's that big of a problem. I'm sorry. And yeah, I mean, I think Andrew Wiggins, I feel good, happy for him because I think it's cool that he got rewarded. I mean, again, like it's not like it was like when Zaza Pachulia was almost an all-star starter. It's not that bad. Yeah, that didn't happen, but still. And he's had a nice year. I'm happy that he's having a good year because Andrew Wiggins is finally in like the perfect role. He's not a number one. He's not a number two. He's like a 3.5. That's what he's always been. But in Minnesota, he just couldn't live up to those expectations. But he's a very solid player. He fits in very well with that Golden State team. And I do think he should be rewarded. Again, I think he is a reserve, not a starter. If it was up to me, I would put Draymond Green. I think that his impact on the Warriors this year has been immense, especially considering how they haven't been as good with him out. I think that this is the best Draymond Green's looked in like a few years at least. I feel like this is I feel like he just looks better. He seems like he's more confident. He seems like he's enjoying the game more. It just seems like you can tell he's having a good time because all he does is sign new deals to be on television, every moment of my life. I mean, what's next? He's going to buy ESPN? I mean, golly. Every day it's like a new TV deal with Draymond Green. I mean, for the people that hate Draymond Green, good luck because he's not going to get off your screen anytime soon. But anyway, again, I would like him. I agree with Pranav, Gobert. has had an outstanding season, probably the best of his career. Towns has had a great year. I think those guys I hope that they are in the reserves. And yeah, but again, everyone needs to calm down. Oh, Andrew Wiggins made the All-Star team. Like just calm down. And I vehemently disagree about the no positions. I think that would be total anarchy. It would be a horrific idea. It would be no, it wouldn't. No.
Yeah, but again, the league could do something where it's 25% fans and they could take over.
I'm okay with that, but no positionless crap. Absolutely not.
Well, they're obviously got bigs in there because, I mean, with Jokic and Embiid.
They barely put in bigs now. They have 3 forwards. That's bull crap. I mean, come on.
It's technically 3 front court. It's not forwards.
Yeah, I mean,
that's really 3
centers
forwards.
could be voted in. If 3 centers are playing, 3 centers could be voted in the starting lineup.
Yeah, but we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but it's based on who deserves it the most, not just like throw it. I don't know. It's based on who deserves it the most, and Andrew Wiggins clearly does not deserve it the most out of like the 15 guys that deserve an All-Star spot in the West right now.
Guys, I'll be honest. I think there's no I've come to realize this over the past year that I don't think there's a solution to make the All-Star game the most, or the selection process or the game or just the entire just the All-Star, just the entire process clean and just the most objective thing. It's just there's always going to be issues. Always going to be people complaining about this or that. And for Wiggins, to state the obvious, no, I don't think he deserves to be a starter. But that doesn't mean I'm not happy for Andrew Wiggins making the All-Star game.
Kansas legend.
Something that exactly. He wasn't on my ballot. In fact, he's a borderline reserve to me. I'm fine if he would have been a reserve, and I'm fine if we didn't even make it at all. But to me, the All-Star game, it's really the whole All-Star process. First of all, I don't even really when I look at players I don't really even look at All-Star appearances anyways. And also it's this whole All-Star thing is just for a game that's played. That's just purely for, I mean, all basketball is kind of for entertainment at the end of the day, but the All-Star game especially is just for the most basic form of entertainment. And some people don't even actually end up liking it, which I think is fair because sometimes the All-Star game can just get a little bit obnoxious. I say that all to say that it's just I don't really care that much that Andrew Wiggins made it at the end of the day. And I'm happy that he did because he's just made a kind of a career of revitalization in Golden State. As a defender, we all knew he had the tools to be a great defender, but he never put it together until he got to Golden State. And I think you can credit Golden State's system to a degree, but there's a system that's in place, but the player has to buy in. Andrew Wiggins bought in, and he's seeing the results of that. So good for Andrew Wiggins. And with that said, I think we can move on to our other All-Star topic, and it's a lot.
Can I touch on something else?
Right. Yeah.
These All-Star games get players paid. So, I mean, you can't, I would never object to a guy getting his bag.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times in contracts, there's stipulations, and all NBA as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I mean, for the All-Star weekend, the Rising Stars competition, basically we're having, the whole game is basically being scrapped, and we're having a 4-team tournament. I'm just going to explain all these rules. There's kind of a lot. I had to write it all down. But there's going to be a draft like there is for the normal All-Star game. It's going to consist of a pool of 12 sophomore players, so second-year players, 12 rookies, and 4 G League Ignite players. There's 7 players per team with an Ignite player on each team. And the first-round games, the target score is going to be 50 points. And the final game between the 2 winners will go up to 25. I think it's because 50 plus 25 is 75 for the 75th NBA anniversary. They seem to be doing a bunch of stuff with that. Whatever. There's also a timed 3-point competition, but I don't know, that would be cool. But yeah, those are all the rules for All-Star weekend. So what do we make of these drastic changes at the end of the day? Do you think it's going to spice up the Rising Stars night of All-Star weekend and make it worth it? Or do you think this is going to be a flop in maybe a couple years from now? Justin, I'll start with you on this one.
I don't really like this at all. I like giving the G League players some love because I think the G League tends to go underrated. I think it's a really good way to develop players, but at the same time, I mean, it's not something mainstream. It's not something that's going to make many people tune in. Not many people watch the G League as a casual viewer. So I mean, really, I just don't understand, and it really makes it less fun when you don't really know some of the players that are playing in the game. So I really don't like it, but I do think there was a way they could have changed it, and that's simply just making it basically a lesser version of the All-Star game where they pick the players, rookies and sophomores, and then eventually I think they should just do a draft. I think a rookie for sophomore game works really well as well instead of the Team USA versus the World. I think they could have just done rookies for sophomores and then just done another draft. And maybe it doesn't have to be televised because it's not as big as the All-Star game. I would like it televised, but maybe, just do a draft or something like that. I did always like the Rising Stars game, not just because, it really, obviously, none of these games have anything at stake. It's just a good place for all these younger players to put their talents on a larger scale, because most of them aren't on great teams anyway. So now they're in this game and putting their talents on display to the whole world. But I would have really liked them to switch it to sort of a rookie versus sophomore game and then have two captains and then have them draft teams. Maybe you make it like a video or something, because, again, it's lesser than the actual All-Star game, so not many people would really tune into that draft. But something like that, I think, just makes it more enticing and more fun. But I really don't like how they're adding the G League players. It's really confusing to me. I haven't even wrapped my head around all these rules because it's just a lot. And I'm still like, that's why I didn't really mention the scores or anything. It's just like, I have to watch it to fully understand what's going on first. But I think doing a rookie versus sophomore games and potentially having captains is the way they should have went.
Yeah, I agree with everything Justin said. I think this is very, very, very stupid. It's pointless. It's moronic. There's no reason to do it. I'm so tired of everything in life where it's always like, it's not broke, but you have to fix it. If it ain't broke, don't.
Jacob's going on
fix
rants
it.
about life.
No, it's like every social media app, they always ruin it. It's like it's the same thing. They just ruined it. Like, why are we playing multiple games? What is this, like? What is this, like a gimmick? No one cares about the G League. What is this, to like make them feel better? They're in the G League. They have to like no one cares. Like I agree with Justin. Just do it the old way. Rookies versus sophomores, and have them, I don't know, pick the game or just have them combine. Just do whatever, and just stop. Like all this crap about like multiple games you have to play. Like, what is this, like street ball? Come on. I can't wait for one of them to get hurt, and then it's going to be like the last game. They're like, oh, well, you see what happens when you have multiple games? If they're doing this to like make them like try, fine, because they don't try anymore. Everything is like, watch me do a behind the back pass where I throw it through my legs and around my head, and you're supposed to, score.
They try in the fourth quarter with
but that's it. If this is what they think will make it work, where they have to try now, then fine. If that works, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I don't think I am, though. And yeah, stupid.
Like Jacob just said, I learned a lesson in life from a very, very young age. Jacob, would you like?
Nader, respectfully, you are still young. All right.
Yeah, but when I was a very young age,
very young age, about 3 years ago.
Yeah. So what was the quote you just said, Jacob? If it ain't
broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. And although Justin said that they're giving some, they're shedding light on some G League players, this isn't any G League. It's just G League Ignite, which is what? The NBA's version, of just making another endorsement team. This is basically the overtime elite of professional basketball. Yeah. They're not even giving it to the most deserving. They're giving it to the young dudes on G League Ignite that they're trying to build up and market from an early age, which is unfair because I bet those 4 dudes that are going to be selected are not the 4 most deserving G League players. Because there's a lot of guys in the G League that are balling out this season that have stepped up to help an NBA team that aren't going to be getting getting any attention, although they're far more deserving. So this is pretty much, just like not even a stunt. This is just, like the NBA promoting itself, which is absurd. I'm sorry. The NBA already has enough promotion. They're just trying to build something else up about them, except of being fair and giving it to the players that most deserve it. And it's not like the NBA Rising Stars game is some like must-see event. People just watch All-Star Weekend mainly for the skills competition, the 3-point competition. I'm not going to say the dunk competition because it's a terrible event now. And then the All-Star game.
It has fallen off.
And now people that, should be playing in the Rising Stars game, although not many people watch it, those guys don't get to be in it. So I'm not very happy with the changes. I enjoyed the, Team World versus Team USA, although it was a bit unfair sometimes. I think that they could have changed that potentially. Maybe, like you guys said, first year versus second year players games, rookies versus sophomores, just some sort of stipulation that wasn't World versus USA, I would be cool with. But I just think that, the NBA just did something that was so unnecessary. Like, no fans were raising their pitchforks on Twitter or Instagram saying, we need a change of the Rising Stars game. That was literally the least concern of all NBA fans. It's just pointless. I'm sorry. I agree with Jacob and Justin. It's just, I don't get it.
Pitchforks. Who's old now? My Lord. Anyway.
There's a reason you laughed at me saying that, because you remember, 5 years ago when you used to do that stuff. Pitchforks.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the focus that I kind of want to go into here is for the G League Ignite players who are probably going to be, it's probably going to be 4 of these 5 guys: Jaden Hardy, Dyson Daniels, Marjon Beauchamp, and either Michael Foster or Scoot Henderson. Now, Scoot Henderson he's the youngest professional basketball player in the history of the sport. He's 17 years old and he's playing in the G League. And granted, he's struggling at times because he's 17 going against guys who've played in the NBA before, and he's not even an adult officially. But he's going to be in the class of 2023. I hope they put him in this game, but I worry that they won't, just because there's 4 prospects for 2022, even though, to me, I've watched a few Ignite games, and I think this is unfair. Not only do I think this is unfair for all the reasons that you guys said, I think it's unfair on the players that they're putting in the spotlight, like the Jaden Hardy and Dyson Daniels, those guys. Because the reality is, I think their stock might actually plummet from this. I think people are going to put maybe too much into this stock into this, and they're going to see them go against NBA guys and be like, all right, these guys are no good. And to be fair, out of the players that I listed, and for the 2022 class, I think the only one that may be a lottery level prospect is Jaden Hardy, and even then, I have some questions about him. I think these guys are all about mid first round level prospects at this point, just based on what I've seen and watched. And this is in a 2022 draft class that is not as good as last year's, despite what Jacob thinks about this. 2021 class was bad, even though it was so great. This class is, I'm not going to say it's a bad class. It's bad in maybe some areas. It's fine at the top. I don't know. I don't want to talk about this 2022 draft class too much. But I think it's unfair to the Team G League Ignite players, because I think their draft stock could plummet way too far, and we're going to there will be narratives, and people will see them struggle, and there's just going to be a spotlight that's, I think, could be a bit too bright for these guys. And I think it may just do unnecessary things to their draft stock. So that's my take on it. Pranav, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much gripes against it as Jacob does. I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much of a problem. We've seen kind of a repetitive trend in the past where Rising Stars is just like a game, and no one cares about Rising Stars. Let me get that out of my chest. No one cares. If I had other words, I would say them, but who actually cares about Rising Stars other than that one year where Zion Williamson, Luka, and Ja were in it? Who actually watches that with all with their eyes glued to their screen?
What about the Kyrie? What about the Kyrie Brandon Knight, or was it the Tim Hardaway one? I don't know.
Too young for that.
That was in 2011 when Kyrie.
I forgot you guys weren't even born then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway,
are you talking about the time when Kyrie Irving literally crossed over? I forget.
Yeah, remember when he was
and they didn't have all-star jerseys. They wore their original team jerseys.
They should. That's what they should be worrying about. They should be bringing that back to All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, that was the last time Kyrie was likable.
Let me go on this rant. The jerseys suck this year. I cannot stress that enough. That red jersey and that gray jersey they unveiled last night, terrible.
Usually
Throw
it's
it
the same
away
colors.
and come up with something new. That's the most generic. It's as bad as 2017. You guys can Google that jersey right now. That 2017 jersey was so bad. It looked like it was made on like clip art.
I
Wait, was
No.
that the brown one?
I
Was
actually
that
like
Yeah, it was the
It
brown
was like
one.
the brown and like gray
And it
or
just says
whatever.
All Star and like Times New Roman. Like,
it's generic, but it's cool, I guess. I don't know. I feel like
but no, the Rising Star jerseys are fire. Like the baby blue one. If Josh Giddey is in the baby blue, I'll cop that jersey. But no, like in terms of Rising Stars, no one has cared about it that much for years. It's like kind of like the JV event. Like people care about the celebrity game just as much. So why not bring about change to it? I mean, you can only go up from here. Like, yeah. And if hopefully Scoot Henderson plays, it will give exposure to the G League and all the younger prospects that are coming up.
You know, Jacob, your tune is going to change on the NBA G League when Scoot Henderson goes to the New York Knicks at first overall or second overall because Victor exists
Who the hell
in the 2023 draft. And yes,
now Jacob's going to question you talking about the Knicks drafting number 1.
We never get the number 1 pick, even
exactly number 2. There you go.
Pelicans. But if before we wrap up,
they don't deserve Zion, but that's another story.
They don't. But before we wrap up this topic, I actually want to go back to something Will said. I actually agree that like this G League event could the incorporation of G League Ignite could show fans that somehow give them a false sense that these guys aren't ready. But I think it's interesting because it will show us or continue to show us how like some of these draft classes aren't as strong as they used to be. And I think that the NBA is entering a new era of prospects that come from, AAU. And I think that that's, this is a whole thing that I've been, a whole theory I've had for the last probably year about NBA basketball. But I think that the NBA is entering an era where their prospects aren't going to be as good simply because they come from the AAU. And I think that this tournament style can somehow not necessarily show it all the way, but it can start to hint at it. And I just thought that was interesting.
The 2023 class of the top 2 of Victor Wembanyama, I still can't even say his name properly, and Scoot Henderson will prove you wrong on that. Well, I don't know, maybe. But just watch out for those guys. 2023, those guys are going to be like those guys are like Cade and Mobley, but like I don't know, like they could be just as good as like Cade and Mobley. How we were talking about them last year. I just want to throw that out there. Maybe better. I don't know. We'll see. They're like 17 years old. So, but let's get to our last couple of topics of the show. We're going to cover 2 Eastern Conference teams. I'm excited to, in particular, to talk about one of these teams, but we're going to start with the Miami Heat. Yeah, Jacob knows why. We're going to start with the Miami Heat, though. We're just prolonging the inevitable here, Jacob. The Miami Heat, they're the first seed in the East, despite their big 3 of Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Kyle Lowry missing over 50 games combined. So the question here is really just how they managed to pull this off. Is it their coaching, Eric Spoelstra? Is it the depth? Is it just guys like Tyler Hero? And just what do you think is like the main catalyst for what the Heat have done here? Nader, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that I've been high on the Miami Heat. I had them as a projected top 3 seed in the East this offseason. But the way they play basketball is just extremely, extremely complete. And I cannot stress this enough. They're one of the best, if not the best, do-it-all teams in the NBA. Teams like the Suns and the Miami Heat make basketball extremely fun to watch because you can't, your eyes are glued to the TV in the sense that you can watch them instant transition. You can watch them on the offensive side of the ball. You can watch them on the defensive side of the ball. And it's just equally as fun. Some of the points that I wanted to bring up, first of all, Jimmy Butler, when he does play, he has been playing, like the Jimmy Butler of old. Recently people are saying, Jimmy Butler is washed. He's never going to be as good as he used to be. But Jimmy Butler, when he does play, is easily a top 20 player in the league. Easily a top 20 player in the league. Like borderline top 15, I would say too. Maybe even top 15. But
I would say he's top 15.
Yeah, it's just hard.
Top 10.
I had him at 14, and that was like after being like dropping him.
It just depends on relative to what, like overall based on the season. But I think that based off this season, Jimmy Butler is easily one of the best players in the NBA when he does play, just because of how complete his game is. We've always known that Jimmy Butler is fantastic on defense, but when his offensive game just starts to click, it's beautiful as well. And not only that, the Heat, they're top 10 in passing too. Their ability to create, I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, they created almost 67 points per game just off assists, which is great. Especially in an era where ISO ball is as prevalent as ever. Just having a team that can, connect with one another to the point where not only that they're, making open passes, but they're hitting passes off the assists is great. And not only that, just the Heat, they're so good at finding these players that can just come in for a year or two. They're young guys like they had Kendrick Nunn, Gabe Vincent. I'm not going to pronounce his last name, but his first name is Omer. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he's been pretty solid as well, too, if he needs to. Caleb Martin, huge shout out to him. Him and his twin have been absolutely going off. I remember watching them in Nevada, and I thought, they can be serviceable in the NBA. They've been being more than serviceable. And you even have guys like Max Strus, who I'm sad the Bulls let go, but, but he's been great, too. And also, Tyler Hero, in my opinion, I think that he's, just, in the front running for most improved player along guys like Miles Bridges too. And I could go on and on about how good this team is. It's just the fact that they play, in all complete basketball. They take in the players that do step up, take advantage of their opportunities. And that's why they've been able to, still do fantastic with their big three missing as many games as they have.
I have a hot take right now. And knowing me, I've had a lot of hot takes on the show. And then the next week, I'll go back on it. So I'm just going to say for now, as of January 28th, 2022, and I think this one might actually stick unless these injuries continue. The Miami Heat will make the NBA Finals this year. And I don't want to say it, but I think
they'll win the finals.
I think they might. It's so I haven't really evaluated the matchup with Phoenix and Miami. I would probably go Phoenix, but I think Miami has a chance. Hear me out. Miami is, I want to say 13 deep right now. Every single guy they've implemented into their lineup with guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Kyle Lowry out, they've stepped up perfectly. No one's been disappointing. There hasn't been a third string guy that they have to throw in the lineup and that guy's a liability. They've all been at minimum serviceable on the court. Most of them above average. This team, I think, has probably the best lineup versatility in the NBA because, again, their depth. And as a whole, they have so many guys who can play multiple positions. And the way they run their offense, I mean, the one thing they're missing, obviously, is that true scorer that can close games. But I think the way they run their offense kind of makes that, not as needed because, I mean, they have Jimmy Butler, who is going to be able to close games really well. Tyler Hero is an amazing scorer as well. And then they have Kyle Lowry being sort of the quarterback of the offense. Bam Adebayo, his offense hasn't been as great, but once he gets fully 100%, I think it'll bounce back to around 18 to 20 a night. And all around their ball movement, and their depth, I think that their lack of a true scorer and perimeter threat to close games is kind of not as needed with the offense they run. And with them coming out of these, I don't think that's as bold of a take because, I mean, Milwaukee's been struggling. It's either them or Milwaukee for me. Milwaukee's struggling. Brooklyn has had their problems all year with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant being injured, potentially more injuries because they've really, ever since they assembled that big three, it's been injury after injury. So that's not as bold of a take, but the one that I'm struggling with is what they're going to do if they make the finals. I would probably go Phoenix or Golden State over them. It's so just,
Justin,
I think.
Justin, we're locking you in for the Heat to winning the finals. I'm just telling you right now.
All right, fine. I'll lock myself in it right now. I'll lock myself in it right now. January 28th.
This could be a generational on the ball show if the Miami Heat end up winning the finals and James Harden leaves for the Philadelphia 76ers. Do you want me to make imagine if both those hit?
I haven't really put much thought into my finals matchup at all lately, but I mean, since Pranav said that, maybe we can make this a generational show, or maybe it'll be another Utah 70 win show. I don't know, but
it could be.
But as of now,
it could be an all-time low.
As of now, I'll end it at this. I guess I'm locked into saying it. The Miami Heat will beat the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals in 7. And we'll see how this comes out. But at minimum, the Miami Heat.
I can spoil this for you. It's not happening.
Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, Heat are great. Spoelstra's great. Pat Riley's great. I will never, ever, ever forgive him for leaving us for the frickin' South Beach. Why, Pat Riley? Why did you have to leave? Why?
The real question is, why didn't he leave earlier?
Shut your mouth, little brat. Anyway, I miss Pat Riley. God, why? All right, before I cry, I'm gonna keep it together. Yeah, Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league. We on this show said it 1,000 times. It's true.
Did a player ranking, and most of us had him at number 1.
All right, well, you can calm down.
What?
Well, I don't know. Just don't bring
Calm
up.
down. You're the one who's on the verge of tears.
All right, I the wrong words came out. Forgive me. Anywho, yeah, Spoelstra's great. I feel like with the Heat, it's always next man up. They really embody that next man up mentality. It's a real team effort. I know that's cliche, but it's true because, again, everyone is always stepping up for them. People know what their role is. They never have guys with huge egos where it's all about them over the team. I mean, even though Jimmy Butler can be quite annoying from time to time, he's still a pretty selfless guy, which he deserves credit for. And the last 23 games specifically, they're 17-6, which is the big reason probably why they've catapulted to the number 1 seed in the East, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. Now, is that going to stay like that? I don't know. It could not. I don't even know if Milwaukee wants to be the first seed. It doesn't seem like they really care about it, but we'll see. And yeah, I mean, I think Spoelstra deserves the bulk of the credit for this. And remember, Kyle Lowry, who is one of their big acquisitions, has been pretty crappy by his standards this year. It's probably one of the worst years of his entire career. And and they're still doing okay. I mean, PJ Tucker's been very good for them. They've missed Bam. They've had a lot of roster turnover, and they've still made it work. So hats off to Eric Spoelstra.
I think, I completely agree. I was going to say Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley. And to me, I usually lean more with the players being the reason that a team has success in the NBA, just because I think it's a player-driven league. But I mean, so I'm usually I'm usually players over coaches and management, but not here. And it's just because we've seen Nader, you listed some of those guys like Caleb Martin, KZ Okpala, Max Strus, excuse me, Kyle Guy, Gabe Vincent. They've all stepped up, and I just think that's because, first of all, their management is helping get those guys on the team, and that starts on Pat Riley. Their scouting department is probably the best in the NBA, especially when it comes to them in Toronto, just finding those second round undrafted gems, and having them make a real impact on your team. Them in Toronto, I think, do it the best. But then you have Eric Spoelstra, who just puts them in positions to succeed by placing. I think this is what it is. I think Eric Spoelstra, in addition to being a tactical genius when it comes to X's and O's on the court, he's also he's also a very player friendly coach. He's going to put as much trust in player 15 or just the end of his roster than he would even for his stars. And sometimes you could say maybe that strategy couldn't work out in some situations, but for Eric Spoelstra and for the Miami Heat, it does. And I think also when we talk about Heat culture, Heat culture is brought up, and I've seen the narrative on the Heat culture is very interesting because everyone kind of praised it when they went on the run to the NBA Finals, but then when they lost, and whenever a Heat player gets in the news for maybe just the wrong reasons ethically, someone's oh, how about that Heat culture? But to me, the Heat culture is not necessarily it doesn't stem from the players. It stems from how their organization is run at the top, and it extends from Eric Spoelstra, and then it goes to the players, like a Jimmy Butler. That's why Jimmy Butler went to the Miami Heat. For one of the big reasons is because their culture at the top, when it comes to the way they're run as an organization, is so good. So to me, I think that's just the Heat culture is so strong. And it's because of Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, and the trust, especially that Eric Spoelstra puts in those players, even the guys that are at the end of his bench rotation. He's going to trust them as much as his star players, and it works out. And we see the results because Eric Spoelstra is an NBA champion, and he's gotten the most out of. He's one of those coaches who just gets the most out of his players, even when they're doubted and they're not supposed to. But let's move on to the final team we're going to talk about, and after much anticipation, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are top 3 in the East, despite Colin Sexton going out, Ricky Rubio going out. Jared Allen's missed a couple games here and there. Lauri Markkanen even's missed some time here or there. Let's talk about why they're succeeding. Pranav, we're going to get to Jacob, but I want to start with Pranav here, actually. So Pranav, what do you think has been the biggest catalyst for the Cavs' success?
Yeah, I mean, last year, this was pretty easy to predict the Cavs being this good this year. not like as far as Giannis has gone to say that they might have a shot to win the East this year. I didn't expect that level of brilliance, but to make the playoffs, that's what I expected out of them. Earlier this year, many people got mad at me, particularly Boston Celtics fans, when I polled on Twitter which team is better, the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Boston Celtics. And what do you know? The Cavs are a better team, like I believed. And it starts at the top. And the top is their defense with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, Frobley, more importantly. That's probably is it a stretch to say that's the best defensive front court in the NBA? Just like the pair of those two. Obviously, individually,
so.
It isn't.
Individually, you have Gobert, Draymond, and Embiid, who can make up so much of that impact. But like as a duo, I think those two are the top. And you have Mobley as a rookie who comes in, and Mobley and Allen are not only just such defensive titans, they're also great offensively. Mobley has offensive versatility. He's great at making skip passes on drives. He could shoot a little bit. Obviously, the self-creation, he's not a consistent self-creator yet, but he's shown really great flashes offensively. And so I'm really optimistic about him. Jared Allen, you could just dump it into him inside, and he scores with efficiency and ease. I mean, both of them are no slouch offensively either. The only problem I have with Mobley's offense right now is he tries to slip screens too much. If he could stay on screens and like really commit to screening really well, I mean, the sky's the limit for him on pick and rolls. And then offensively, you have Darius Garland, who, I mean, towards the end of last year, this was super predictable. I made a post on it on Instagram and TikTok. But I mean, he was heating up. We saw this last year. We saw this at the end of last year. Darius Garland doing the exact same things that he's doing right now, except he's improved in terms of finishing at the rim, getting to the rim. I mean, that's really been his big improvements. He's actually, I believe he's down in 3-point percentage from last year. Obviously he's a great shooter himself, but I mean, he's getting to the rim with ease. And he's creating so many looks at the rim for Allen and Mobley. And the resurgence is just not the young stars. The resurgence of Kevin Love, that's been a huge aspect of why the Cavs have been so successful this year. Isaac Okoro being a second-year player and being that complimentary wing next to all of those guys. Lauri Markkanen working out well. Hopefully if Colin Sexton can come back by playoff time, this is going to be a fun team to watch, and I think they can really make some noise. I would compare them I know it's NFL playoff time, but I would say they're like the Cincinnati Bengals of the NBA, if that makes sense.
Both teams from Ohio as well.
Yeah. I'll quickly give mine because I really want to hear Jacob's outlook on this. I mostly agree with everything Pranav said. Darius Garland I think, should definitely be an all-star. Same with Jared Allen. Both of them, I think, should be probably locks for the game. Darius Garland's been one of the most impactful offensive players in the entire league this year, and he's really developing into one of the best playmakers in all basketball. And that's not even me talking about his scoring ability, his ability to shoot the three, to get to the rim, his ability to score in transition. He's just been terrific, and the sky's the limit for him, as well as a guy like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I did not think this was going to work at all when they originally signed all these big guys, like all these power forwards and centers. I thought they were going to be one of the laughing stocks of the league, but I was completely wrong. Everyone stepped up. Kevin Love's had a great season as well, a resurgent season. It really just looks like the Cavs are back to where they should be. And this is not my prediction at all, but I do think they have a ceiling if everything goes well of an Eastern Conference Finals berth, because if they get a second seed, because they have one of the easiest schedules in the entire league, if they get that, I don't know why that's funny, because they have one of the easy schedules in the league. If they get a second seed, beat the seventh in the first round, beat a team like Chicago second round, which I think is definitely possible, I think they could make that run. I think they could make that
Chicago.
Run.
Please don't let that be a playoff series. Please.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish, Justin.
But yeah, I don't see them making that far just yet. It really depends on their seeding. But they do have a high ceiling. I don't think it's a championship like Giannis said, but I do think they have a high ceiling, and I'm really excited to see what their future holds.
Yeah, I'm just going to butt it real quick so we can have, save the best for last and Jake. But, like Pranav said, I wanted to touch a bit about Mobley and Allen. not only is that one of the best defensive front courts in the NBA, but it's also one of the best, the best shot blocking front court in the NBA. When those two guys were, when they traded for Jared Allen and Mobley was drafted, I'm like, this is going to be extremely fun to watch. And even though they're all technically our division rivals, I enjoy watching the Cavaliers. Like, if there's any chance that I get to, if the Cavaliers game is being televised, I'll put it on and I'll watch it. This team is very complete. Their coach has been doing a fantastic job, right, Jacob? And, Darius Garland has been playing out of his mind. Definitely I think he deserves a all-star spot. Hopefully he's in the reserves. I know he's injured. But, the Cavaliers are a young core that, when we did our segment on, who are the best young cores in the NBA, I think that now, if we were to have done that again around this time, the Cavaliers would definitely be there. So I'm really excited for their future. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the last take of not only the show, but on this topic, Sir Jacob.
I've never wanted to hear Jacob talk about JB Bickerstaff more in my entire life.
This is hard. All right. As you know, I ripped the Cavaliers the entire offseason mercilessly. It was almost like I was Mike Tyson. I was beating up like a blind man. Like, it was like brutality at its finest, the way I beat up on the Cavs. And I mentioned how their coach, I think it's John Blair Bickerstaff. I think that's the initials. I don't really care, but was the worst coach.
Say it right. Say JB. Because you say
I said his full name. Isn't that more respectful?
Just say JB. Just say JB because you always say that exact name. I just want to hear it. Say JB.
John Blair Bickerstaff. This is the first year where he's earned the stripes. I'll say this. I will apologize to the Cleveland Cavaliers team. I will. I was wrong about the team. I didn't think they were going to be this good, nearly this good. I didn't think that. I mean, I always thought that Sexton and Garland together was just not good. Bad defensive backcourt. They're too similar. That's what I thought. I didn't think Larry Markkinen playing the three that made any sense at all. And I had zero faith in their coach. But I am not apologizing to JB Bickerstaff. Doggone, I said it. I am not apologizing to JB Bickerstaff. That's not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why it's not going to happen. Because listen to this. This is the first time that this guy has ever looked like a competent head coach, okay? Let me remind you, he takes over in Houston as an interim. Do you know what happened the next year? They took off. They were the Rockets, right? They really went up into the air as soon as he left. Memphis, he won 15 games as an interim. And you know what they did? They gave him an extension. Do you know what happened a year later? He was fired. Do you know what happened the year after that? They pretty much, it was Ja, right? I just want to make sure I get this right. It was the last year he was there. Then they got like the top pick and the 2 pick in the draft, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
What year are you talking
because
about?
Because Ja's in his third year. His first year, he had a new coach, Taylor Jenkins, correct?
Yeah.
They practically made the playoffs. They went from one of the worst teams in the league to a playoff team as soon as he left. The Cavs were terrible. They went 5 when he was the interim. They went 5-6, and they said, "Yeah, we need to give that guy a contract." And then they go 22-50. Nice. I mean, well, not nice. Garbage. And then all of a sudden, he wakes up from his coma, and he's a great coach. If he does it next year, then he has my respect.
Jacob, this is not what I signed up. I signed up for you praising JB Bickerstaff.
That's not going to happen.
Man. You called it the worst.
I have nothing to apologize for.
You said he was worse than Luke Walton.
Team.
Apologize. I did?
No, I claimed that he was
said that he was by far the worst coach in the NBA and he shouldn't be employed. Just give him a sorry, Jacob.
That's not going to. I have nothing to apologize for.
I am sorry, John Blair Bickerstaff. You didn't even have to say JB. Just say it. Okay,
Nader.
You let down the fans.
Nader, all of a sudden he's a good coach?
Wait, Jacob, can we make a bet right now that
I don't gamble. I am not.
It's not for money. If the Cavaliers win around, if JB Bickerstaff wins around in the playoffs if they win one round in the playoffs, you have to make a formal apology here live on the Ball show.
No.
That's at least one paragraph long.
Fine. If they get to the conference finals,
I'm not wasting a paragraph on Jaden.
Come on, Jacob. For the culture.
if they get to the conference finals,
I will apologize to him if he's good next year. That's when he gets an apology. He's
If
not
the
getting an
Cavs are good
apology
next
this year. I'm sorry. I want to see him be good 2 years in a row.
The Cavs are going to be like a top 4 seed next year, and Jacob's going to be like, "Nah, that's not."
I'll say it next year when they win.
Everything I said is true. This guy has never put together.
No, you said he was the worst coach in the league, and that he was should be employed.
I didn't say that.
I'll find it.
I just made the point that when he would leave a place, they would get better immediately. That's not up for debate. Again, he found his brain. It must have been missing for the last 4 years because this guy had no clue what the heck he was doing for the longest time, and now all of a sudden it just came out of the blue. He's a great coach. I don't know. Again, if he does it again next year, he gets the credit. He's not getting it right now. It's 1 year. A lot of people have looked great in 1 year. Mike Woodson looked great in 1 year. And I love Mike Woodson. But still, I mean, not everyone, I don't know. Sorry if you didn't get what you want. That's too bad. You're going to have to pay extra. But again, I've said my piece.
Shouldn't be apologizing to us. Should be apologizing to JB Bickerstaff. Disappointed.
Not gonna.
But you know what? The real ones know that JB Bickerstaff is an excellent NBA.
Oh my god!
Excellent.
Oh my god!
In 2022, maybe not in 2016.
He's been an excellent coach this year. That's all I'll give you.
Oh, they're okay. They're all right.
For this 1 year, 1 year. Don't tell me he's a good coach in general because that's not true.
He is a good coach in general.
I'll take it.
Ask the Grizzlies if they want him back. I can assure you they're very happy with
I
who
don't
they
think
have
he wants
right
the
now.
Grizzlies back.
Oh my god.
Guys, before we wrap up, do you have anything else anyone else want to add any points for the Cavs or anything else?
They've had a great year. I think Kevin Love has a strong case to be sixth man of the year. I forgot to say that. I was just so wrapped up in Bickerstaff, but I think he's had a very good year off the bench. And they have a very good team. They do. They have a very talented roster. They do. I think Garland's a borderline all-star. I think Allen should be in the all-star team. They've had a lot of talent. Hats off to them.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's going to do it for another live on the ball show here on Friday night on the Right Way Sports Network YouTube channel. Of course, if you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We have live shows every day of the week. Other videos and other content from all our creators dropping on a daily basis. Tune into the Soccer Sit Down tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Those guys do a great job, and they do their shows on Saturday morning, so make sure to give them some love. Also, check out TWSN's Patreon page for some sports betting advice if that's the kind of stuff that you're into. Our NBA bets, they've been hitting on a consistent basis, so just check it out, and you won't regret it if you do invest. But that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for watching the show. Have a great rest of your night, and we will see you all next week.
Is this the dagger?